Hello and welcome to World Talks on TVP World with me, Ashim Kumar. The European Commission released a statement which read, SAFE, which stands for Security Action for Europe, will allow member states to immediately and massively scale up their defence investments through common procurement from the European defence industry, focusing on priority capabilities. The US and UK have been excluded from this funding package to rearm Europe. What does this tell us about how Europe is shaping its future, especially in terms of its relationship with the United States? Well, to explore this, we're joined by Piotr Maciej Kaczyński, an EU expert and independent consultant on EU affairs. Welcome to TVP World. Mr. Kaczyński, thanks for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, so it's a combined EU package for upping, if you like, the standard of defence across Europe. Give us a feel of what the main elements are.
Well, let me put it this way. The main element here is to stay united. This is the biggest message out there. We are not divided as Europeans by America, by Donald Trump. We are not divided by Vladimir Putin. Quite contrary to that, we are arming ourselves against Mr. Putin. One of the biggest news out there over recent days is actually the German conclusion of the outgoing Bundestag to amend the constitution in Germany to allow for massive spending that is outranking the European spending on military in the upcoming years.
Right, okay. So I want to come to the spending and the economic issues in just a second. But before we get there, I mean, there is the obvious question, isn't there? That, yes, okay, I mean, it's great to see the EU actually working together and a decision being taken relatively quickly. But what's taken so long to get to this stage? I mean, Russia has always been a threat, especially in this region. Trump said in his first term that Europe needs to step up, investments in defence, but it's only now happening. Why?
Oh, hang on over there, because what Mr. Trump has been saying in his first term, that's exactly what most of Europeans have been spending way before 2022. We have been stepping up already and responding to what American president has been saying between 2016 and 2020, because back then he was talking about 2%. Right now he's talking about 5%. So
he's not the only one, is he?
He's not the only one,
yeah,
and I'm not arguing what is needed here.
Right.
But let's put it in perspective that we have not been being laggards for many years. We have been stepping up, but the biggest issue has been that the security threat here in Warsaw, the feeling of it is completely different from anybody who's governing in Lisbon or even Sofia.
Even now, having seen what Putin is capable of doing?
Well, now, no, or less so. Let's put it this way, less so. Mm-hmm. But if you take before 2022, it was massively different. So you had a parallel discussion about energy, a parallel discussion on security, and Germany, just until 2024, had this heavy burden of living under the Second World War, let's say, leverage and historical leverage from it, that you cannot see a German soldier anyway in Eastern Europe, for example, right? And Germany should not have invested into a massive army on its own. That has shifted radically, but it has shifted only between 2024 and 2025. Why? Because the Germans have seen that the United States is not able to commit itself 100% to guarantee the German security needs.
How united is the EU on this?
Well, the European Council meeting today clearly says that 26 out of 27 member states agree, and it's very important who are the 26, because they're very diverse. Majority is conservative, but there are also progressive leaders there, but there are also those ultra-conservatives, if you like. There is the government of the Netherlands, there's the government of Italy, there's the government of Slovakia, who is bucking these conclusions of the European Council. The only outstanding is Viktor Orban and Hungary.
Is that going to stop the process?
It is not stopping the process, because Europeans are not falling behind, saying, oh, we cannot do anything, this is behind us because we cannot reach 27. No, we have seen, for example, Monday, when the foreign ministers met, that instead of having obligatory commitments, those are voluntary commitments, and voluntary commitments mean if Poland wants to spend money, if Germany wants to spend money on assisting Ukraine, let them do this, and Hungary cannot stop it.
Right.
If Hungary doesn't want to commit, it's fine.
It's a European fund, isn't it, that they're talking about?
Well, there are different elements here. If we are talking about the voluntary commitments, this is voluntary commitment of member states that are voluntarily committing to it, and then it may be created through the European fund, and then this European fund is distributing the resources, like what you just read out on the issue of common procurement, of this second biggest topic, which is our own readiness to defend ourselves. Okay. Without the United States. This is such an important issue that it's done in a coordinated manner.
Where's the money going to be spent? Just broad picture.
You just said that. And this is the big answer from today as well. That is going to be spent in Europe mostly. So European markets, unless there will be change of decision to include certain delivery companies from outside of the structure, but definitely.
So manufacturing
the focus is on European producers.
Manufacturers of weaponry, is that
we're talking about manufacturers of weaponry and artillery from Europe. But I believe there will be some developments where you can go beyond these limitations, because there are producers of certain goods that are not possible in Europe yet, but they are available elsewhere.
Will this also include European or EU aid to Ukraine, whether it's military or other?
Well, definitely the assistance to Ukraine is part of the bigger picture. We need to, in order to analyze the situation, we have to keep two perspectives. One is the perspective of assisting Ukraine, and then there's all kinds of assistance, right? There's a humanitarian assistance, there's financial assistance, and there is a military equipment assistance. And within that military assistance equipment, there have been shortages, for example, of ammunition. So those are European producers and European capacities that we need to beef up to be able to meet whatever Ukraine needs on those accounts, especially if we need to get ready to replace Americans if they go away. They haven't done so yet.
They haven't done so, and they, so far at least, are continuing to supply Ukraine both with intelligence and hardware. Now, the deadline, of course, for implementation is 2030. How realistic is that deadline?
I think it's a moving target. 2030, this is a deadline because everybody in politics likes deadlines. We like deadlines. We need to complete something.
But they're necessary,
by a certain time.
Especially with groups like the EU, which has a reputation for moving so slowly.
Absolutely, but you know, the needs are for 2020, not 2030. So that's the difference, right? That we need it for yesterday, not for tomorrow. So 2030 that von der Leyen has proposed is definitely an important step that will allow for many of the member states to beef up their spending, their military spendings. Their incentives are tremendous. They can raise their spending on military beyond what they've been doing, 0.5%, without counting into their deficits, which is great news for anybody who wants to beef up their military spending. The question is on political readiness and political stepping up of those laggards, if you like, European laggards from the past. including Italy, including Spain, big European countries. But it's also important to look at the mid-sized European nations that have big budgets, like the Netherlands, like Sweden, like Belgium, who are able to step up significantly from what they've been doing in the past. Remember that especially Netherlands and Belgium, two wealthy Western European nations, not having an external border for decades, so not feeling the same threats that everybody else, especially here, are feeling. So for them to convince the public that they actually need to spend more on defense, it's not as easy as it is for whoever's governing in Warsaw.
How is the money going to be raised for this, and what are the economic risks, especially for the less well-off countries in the EU?
Right, so a lot of the money that is going to be spent, the new money, is going to be spent by national budgets. So it is the national budgetary revenues, there will be national bonds, etc. The question on funding that is unanswered still refers to the issue of those 800 billion euros that have been mentioned, and whether we will have a new European loan taken from international markets. And that's a big question without an answer for now. But I guess there is a major shift coming up here on this matter, especially with Germany. I think there's a big movement in the Netherlands, another country that doesn't like to spend much. Germany and Netherlands. Finland was the hawkish country in the past. Finland has the longest joint border with Russia. So 3 out of 4 of those difficult nations, when it comes to fiscal discipline, might be moving away from their fiscal discipline mode, and therefore maybe we will have more good news from the perspective of having a European decision to take new loans for defense spending.
What's the risk that inflation is going to increase, and is that going to form part of the decision-making process? So you're a leader in a country, you've got an election coming up within the next 4 years. You don't want high inflation, do you, if you want to keep your job?
Absolutely, this is a big issue, and this is a very big issue that nobody's looking at, because this is not a priority right now. We see that that inflation today is under control. It's single digits everywhere. We have dealt with inflation here much better than the United States. We see that actually, looking back, one of the biggest problems of Biden administration and election of Harris has been inflation for the regular folk out there in the United States, whereas the standard of living here and the cost of living in Europe also has risen because of COVID and etc. So those questions on inflation have not been addressed yet. But what will be the result here? That's not a priority. This is a inflation question. It may haunt some of those decision makers in the future, though.
Yes, but the point is that going to influence their decision to buy in, if you like, to raising the funds for this?
Potentially, but at the same time, this is viewed as an economic instrument to help the European economy get better results overall. Remember that we are in a situation where there are factories being closed down because of various considerations related also to green transition, and maybe some of those car factories in Germany that are being closed down are going to be turned into not only batteries factories, but also military equipment batteries.
Right, well, we should be
factories.
watching very carefully. Do come back and see us again soon, Piotr Kaczyński.
Thanks for having me.
And that's all from us in this episode of World Talks. From us, goodbye.